also, I don't really understand why there needs to be this thing even written anywhere if it's just sort of like, you know, you can just say that you're part of it. It doesn't need to be written down like as a statement, like this is what we don't believe we're non-violent.
I definitely say that's part of the larger debate.
Yeah.
That's a question that, and we're running out of time. But that's exactly the question that needs to be talked about. That's the whole point.
But
Having extra time that we discussed. George and then Roy, I believe.
To speak to this, I would say Paul and Roy and those of the direct action, well done for developing this. I've not been able to get connected with it, and the push that I would have had in the development process would be to try and ID sort of the elements of problems and put that in the statement, and also identify that there are problems and perspectives from various participants in whatever issue, and unless you are able to include the perspectives of all of the participants, then going forward and suggesting suggestions, which I think should all those three items be part of that statement, makes it kind of limited. So I want to encourage that this sort of be developed as a statement that is kind of for now, but it is important when Roy says we're perceived in the community, and to try and create a vision that is going to differentiate between something and something else in the community. So trying to create the movement that is going to be inclusive and attracting, you're setting a high standard with the statement. So I see this statement as being a good start, and before it goes widespread, it could maybe be further developed to be even better.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
So we've got Roy and then James.
Yeah, very briefly, the intent, especially today, is to remove the perception to others that we're a violent organization. That perception, again, should not be there, but it is there. And I think you could signal, all we can do at the moment is signal that by passing this motion, this particular amendment, so it's off the table. That's our point today.
James, and then, I don't think anybody can say you know.
George, are we pointing at me or?
No, first, go ahead.
I'm also George.
Do you want to clarify Kelly's one?
I do just want to ask a question of clarification. I mean, we haven't even done an action yet, so I don't know who, you keep mentioning that people have the perception of violence, and so I want to ask as a point of clarification.
Other members who are not here.
People involved in Occupy?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because
Okay, so Autumn and then Joe.
Yeah. Like, I think this is mostly just, this became a miscommunication that has blown out of proportion, and it's, you know, in those cases, every Occupy has this conversation about things like violence and all of this, but, you know, most of them, it doesn't become a big thing that they have a central statement, you know, explaining all this, but because of some miscommunication in this movement, that statement was just important to assure some people we're not going to go about burning houses down or something like that, and that was never obviously in anyone's mind. Some people were unclear, so that statement was just to clarify that. But you know, if we're going to talk about like actual statements of what we believe, you know, I still, you know, we need to have a conversation about like, I don't know what we mean by violence yet, you know, like it's, so that stuff should, I think this is good enough for us to work with now, you know. Let's talk about the other stuff more later.
yeah, I like it as a working statement for the DA, which has been expressed many times by the DA, and that's to the point where people think, like within the community, like within our group. Oh shoot, I had a point when I was typing. Never mind, I'm gonna have to come back to it. I think it is important though, just to have this like clear up the air and be a working statement that will be improved upon. But then also just to set the tone and have it in, again, like a tool in our pocket. Like, yeah, we have this kind of statement if people ask us, but not necessarily something at this point in time we need to put on our banner.
Okay, guys, it's 3:43, and we've got a whole bunch of other proposals to get through.
Can I just
James was-
Yeah, go ahead.
No.
I prefer the revised statement in the sense that it has wide appeal. I don't see it as a hard and fast rule, but I see it as a vision. What I didn't like about the former statement was it did make a judgment about violence being unacceptable. I find the revised statement doesn't make that judgment, that it does not say that violence is unacceptable. It says that as a movement, we are moving towards a peaceful, non-violent approach, but we're not limited to that with that statement. So that's why I prefer it as a wider statement.
Can I make one quick statement? Where to start? Yeah, again, like, I don't think this is a time to, like, sort of vote on that, because there's not a lot of people here, and, like, sort of the approach that people that haven't been out to, like, that many GAs, or just have started coming out, or don't even come out, like, this kind of statement even represents all people that are sort of activist or active in any community, and, you know, like, we should just have a further discussion and have more people in on voting on something like this.
I would like to sort of support what you're saying. I think based on the intensity of the conversation, the sort of the significance of the issue, it's probably not appropriate for us to endorse anything with less than 15 people. That does seem a fundamental issue. I would suggest tabling the decision personally.
Yeah, I think this has been something that has been discussed, just as like as a working statement for the DA to have. Like, we do have some dissent, which is good, and we encourage that. People have been voicing that, but we can still kind of come to consensus about having it as a working statement, which is in DA's pocket, in case somebody has the perception that there might be violence, that we're promoting violence, not necessarily making a judgment about it. But then also, I think as a caveat, we can say our first non-GA discussion group should be on defining violence, because I think that's a premise of a lot of the miscommunication, is people have different definitions of violence. And so, for example, when I go out and buy a coffee from Starbucks, some people would say that's violent. Whereas people, when they think of violence, they use the hyperbole of burning down a house or actually harming an individual, whereas there's so many different definitions. So I think having this as a working statement was something we should have a consensus about today, but then also have that discussion in a very serious way at our first gathering or first.
Yeah. And this was just a working.
It's a working statement
For the DAC, and then for larger, pan-occupied Peterborough things, we're going to come back to that.
Yeah.
Okay, so I suggest wrapping this up. It seems like there's a consensus to have a vote as to whether it's a working statement for the DA committee, and is not endorsed by the General Assembly as a general statement on the movement. Have I got the right? Am I saying the right thing here? Is that the right proposal? Everyone agree to that? Or?
Maybe we can do a temperature check. Do people
Good.
feel like we can do a consensus draw on whether or not this document can be seen as a working document, a working statement rather, from the DA? Because they have been coming to every GA that's happened thus far. In terms of process, I do feel like
We should
Alright.
acknowledge
Which is
that.
what we've always asked for, right?
Yep.
Okay, so temperature check, working statement for the DA.
Just a working
Acceptable? Okay. So maybe we should just move on to the decision. Do people agree, disagree? Can the DA use this as a working statement? It's not applicable to general statement.
Yeah.
All right, I see hands in the air, a little bit of ambivalence. Everyone okay? Everyone? Yeah, everyone is ambivalence, right? Okay.
It's
All
there.
right, so I suggest that's consensus, and we can move on to number 5, and I'm sure I'll have many more discussions. about it.
Okay, since I'm new to that, so does that mean that passed and that's now
That's just for the DA.
DA? Okay.
And it's working document.
I made it very clear that it's not endorsed by the GA.
Yeah,
It's a
yeah,
general
yeah.
assembly statement, it's just a working statement.
Cool.
Yeah.
the proposal that I wrote down, we got consensus to, is that the Direct Action Committee asked us
Yeah, okay, I get it.
if we generally consent to them changing the wording in their own working statement. So that's all we just consented to.
Sweet.
Are you still comfortable with that?
Sure.
There goes yours.
Huh?
Question number 5.
And the duty of the GA is that any question can be brought back to the GA. This isn't a parliament, we can always revisit a question if we feel like we haven't got it right the first time.
Okay, I'm guessing we can zoom through number 5 pretty quick. The proposal is that we reimburse Annie $25 for her signing us up for reframe, which ended up making us more than $25.
Yeah, can I
Any
just,
discussion, debate?
can I just call it consensus?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yes.
I'll get it in money.
Okay.
Number 6 was within communications, setting up a working group to make occupypeterborough.org. And then in the future, we can look at subdomains, which will also point to it. And then so gather interested individuals to make this website. So we have clarifications and whatnot. So temperature check, but then we have discussion too.
Costs involved.
At this point in time, none. But with the website we have, but costs involved to get the domain would be $4 a month.
Thank you.
Okay. So it's the cheapest I could find.
All right,
Yeah.
so I see a lot of agreement and no disagreement for that. So we'll move on to the decision-making part of that proposal. Do we agree, disagree? You happy with that? Okay, passed. Joe's very happy.
I am happy.
All right, so moving right along to number 7.
Yeah.
Proposal number 7 was from Roy, which is that we create a specific working group to study and to bring recommendations of a multiplicity of consensus models and a understanding of the model that we're presently working with and others that are available.
Mm-hmm.
So this is a proposal for a working group that will bring recommendations to the GA.
Mhm.
I think that's good, yeah.
I know this is kind of mildly complicated issue, but we can't, I didn't want to bring up a proposal at the block today because there's only 13 of us, but from what I've seen in different occupies, that becomes a major issue. So I would just like that to be included as an imperative issue that if it should go to the working, whatever group we create, but if it can be brought up at a GA where there's quorum
Yeah.
and just nailed down as soon as possible. So, okay, I think I saw George first, then Rochelle, or, yeah, actually saw you first, then George, then Rochelle.
No, I just suggested that, yeah, if we can accept it as something that, we'll have it reconfirmed next GA maybe, just, I think it's something that no one's really gonna disagree with, but yeah, sure, maybe we can have the idea re-proposed just for
Ryan.
confirmation next GA.
Okay, George?
The call for a working group, I hear Roy having, or anybody having the vision that work needs to be done.
Yeah.
I would like to suggest that in the interim, we have a call for people for this working group.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And that maybe is what we can put forward from this group.
Yeah.
And then if we see that there's people that come forward in the group and a larger quorum is had next time, the group can then be
Good idea.
put forward as an official group, official working group. So that's my suggestion.
Hmm.
Right, so to clarify, we're going to recruit people to this group, and then it'll become an official working group, is that what you're suggesting?
Well, we had said we maybe don't have quorum to, officially have a working group be officially recognized.
Oh, I
So
would
this-
propose that we do have enough for a decision like that.
Yeah.
I don't know if people are uncomfortable with that or not, but personally, I think 13 is enough to create a working group.
Okay, but the two parts of it is, if you're gonna, just define that we're gonna have a working group, have the call for
Yes.
people to be on that working group as well.
And that's